Okay, Kajal, I've got a question for you, but I really wouldn't mind if you'd rather not answer.
Okay, Michelle, but if it's so sensitive, wouldn't you rather wait for the next ad break?
Well, no, because it has something to do with the next feature on the show. And it's the kind of decision that you face when you're in show business.
This sounds rather NSFW, but let's hear it. I am a professional.
Kajal, would you ever go blonde?
Michelle, you had me going there for a minute. Look, I suppose you have to ask yourself whether the role calls for it. I've gone ginger for Lollipop Lane, but fortunately, it was just a wig.
Well, if you're working in Bollywood, it seems to be an essential career move because the Indian movie industry is bonkers about going blonde.
Well, it does seem that way sometimes, doesn't it? And it isn't only the girls. I can remember seeing Ajay Devgan with a reddish blonde fringe, and it looked rather dodgy.
Dodge is bad enough, but how about Amisha Patel? I mean, she went totally blonde and then went crazy with those curling tongs.
Well, she wasn't alone. Bipasha Basu also had blonde ambitions, but highlights and coal eyes are a tough one to pull off.
Rani Mukherjee also went blonde a few years back for a Shah Rukh Khan movie.
Oh, yes. And let's not forget the Badshah himself with that weird streak on the side of his head. It looked as if a little furry animal was trying to nest in his hair.
Yeah, true. Apparently, Amir Khan experimented with a strawberry blonde top for Doom 3. But fortunately, the producers decided no.
Saif Ali Khan stuck his head in the dye basin for Goa Gone. But it was right for the character he played.
Well, going blonde can work, like Kareena Kapoor in Etraz and then again in Tashan.
Well, I suppose, but we've lined up a snippet from the movie, so you can be the judge.
Our advice would be, if you're thinking of sourcing your hair color from a bottle, don't try it at home. Rather get a professional to do the job.
Talking about jobs, Zaki met up with a South African who became a real Bollywood blonde, and I'm dying to hear about her experiences.
Indian cinema has a worldwide following, but its millions of fans have no idea what really goes on behind the scenes of those spectacular dance sequences. Neither did Cape Town-based photographer Jeannie Gualdi. And when she was offered a job in Mumbai, it seemed like a dream come true. A few months later, she was coming to terms with reality and making some major adjustments, as she explains in her recently published book, Bollywood Blonde.
Bollywood's blonde obsession is an open secret, so I'd assume that golden tresses are a passport to riches. Turns out, I'm wrong, and there's a price to be paid for being a Bollywood blonde. Photographer Jeannie Gualdi was drawn to Mumbai by the promise of a job in the Mumbai film industry. This is where our story starts. Jeannie, how did you come to be introduced to the Indian film industry?
Well, basically I was working in Cape Town as a photographer at Media 24 and then moonlighting on film sets because I wanted to get into the film rather than the stills. And the DOP that I was working with took me onto an Indian film set. And I met the producer and he offered me 6 months in Bombay.
Did you know much about Bollywood, Mumbai, or India in general?
Absolutely nothing. I knew that Bollywood films had a lot of dance and a lot of charisma and a lot of color, but I'd never even watched one.
And what sort of offer were you made?
He was like, well, you'll come and we'll look after you and you'll work with me and we'll see what happens.
And what did your instincts tell you about the offer that was made?
My instincts told me from the body language of the producer that the guy probably wanted more.
How and why did you become a Bollywood blonde?
The producer saw me as his Barbie doll, so he was actually very controlling. And he put me on a very strict diet and exercise regime, made me lose 10 kilos. He bought me all my clothes, told me what to wear, and then said, and now you need to be blonde. I knew whatever I looked like for him would just, benefit me, because this is what he wanted. And the more I looked the way he wanted me to look, the more places he took me, the more exposure he gave me to his world. We do a lot of red carpet things, appear in a lot of newspapers, appear at a lot of parties, and I think he felt good. I think it boosted his ego.
During this time, Jeannie worked with major Indian celebrities.
Jeannie, you've had a fascinating personal journey. How did the book come about?
My book came about because I kept scrapbooks while I was living in India, and I decided when I got back here it was time to write a book.
It appears that you've used pseudonyms in the book, but who are some of the actual celebrities that you worked with?
Well, I was forced to change names legally.
Tell us a little about some of the movies you've worked on.
My first one was Kyunki with Priyadarshan, the director, and Salman Khan. Then I moved on to Salamish, which had a huge body of Bollywood actors. And then from there I did Chinikam with Amitabh Bachchan, and then Pa with Amitabh Bachchan.
Jeannie's production stills captured the dramatic locations and glamorous images that Bollywood projects of a world populated by the young, rich and beautiful. But her eye was drawn to the reality of India and the humanity of its people. This took her to the back streets and slums, where she found a truth that filled her heart.
Jean, you went to Mumbai to be a photographer in Bollywood. Then you found yourself slipping into the back streets to take photos of the slums. Alongside a book, you've also mounted an exhibition. Please tell us about it.
I think for me this is a real India, and this is paying homage to these beautiful people that no one bothers to get to know or spend time with. And it's a celebration. It's a celebration of 6 years of photographs that I have to share with the world.
You had a steady job on film sets. What made you decide to take photos in the cities?
I felt very removed from reality. I was surrounded by glitz and glamour on a daily basis, and it was just extreme wealth. And that wasn't the real India. Everything I saw every day in the streets and off set was this.
Did you go out with a plan to shoot according to a theme, or did the process just take shape?
The process took totally its own shape. I was very drawn to the children, especially their smiles, their laughter, their energy, but I just kept shooting. I didn't think of any theme, any running story. I just shot and shot for 6 years, and then eventually I had this body of work that just spoke, and it all worked together.
What are some of your favorite images?
The one over here for me is my favorite. He is my muse. I did everything with him, and you can see him growing up through the years. He gets older. It started off with him very tiny in a taxi, and then he grew and grew, and he played with the camera, and he loved being photographed. And then this one, the taxi girls. They're triplets.
What advice do you have for young women who are drawn to the bright lights of Mumbai?
I think each individual has their own restrictions or their own amount of what they can take. I think as long as you're safe, you have to follow your dreams. And your instinct will tell you when you've had enough or when you've got to get out. So yes, follow your dreams. They always come true.
From the Mumbai elite to the city slums, Jeannie has experienced the polar opposites of Indian society. It turns out that being a Bollywood blonde isn't an automatic ticket to the golden circle, because there's no such thing as a free meal. In the end, life is what you make of it. Just ask Jeannie.
Quite a story. And I guess you're right. We can't go through life always making the right decisions. And it really depends on what you make of the situation.
So true, Kajal. There's no reward without risk, but you've got to ask yourself if your expectations have any connection with reality before you take a chance, especially if you're far from home.
And you can always write a book about your experiences afterwards.
Absolutely.